Now see why I tell you this. I am going to show you how the calumny arose. When I heard the answer, I asked myself, what can the god mean? What can he be hinting? For certainly I have never thought myself wise in anything, great or small. What can he mean then when he asserts that I am the wisest of men? He cannot lie, of course, that would be impossible for him, and for a long while I was at a loss to think what he could mean. At last, after much thought, I started on some such course of search as this. I betook myself to one of the men who seemed wise, thinking that there, if anywhere, I should refute the utterance, and could say to the oracle, "This man is wiser than me, and you said I was the wisest." Now when I looked into the man, there is no need to give his name. It was one of our citizens, men of Athens, with whom I had had an experience of this kind. When we talked together, I thought, "This man seems wise to many men, and above all to himself, but he is not so." And then I tried to show him that he thought he was wise, but he was not. Then he got angry with me, and so did many who heard us. But I went away and thought to myself, well, at any rate, I am wiser than this man. Probably neither of us knows anything of beauty or good, but he thinks he knows something when he knows nothing, and I, if I know nothing, at least never suppose that I do. So it looks as though I really were a little wiser than he, just in so far as I do not imagine myself to know things about which I know nothing at all. After that I went to another man who seemed to be wiser still, and I had exactly the same experience, and then he got angry with me too, and so did many more. Thus I went round them all, one after the other, aware of what was happening and sorry for it, and afraid that they were getting to hate me, but still I felt I must put the word of God first and foremost, and that I must go through all those who seemed to have any knowledge, in order to find out what the oracle meant. And by the dog, men of Athens, for I must tell you the truth, this was what I experienced. As I went on with the quest the god had imposed on me, it seemed to me that those who had the highest reputation were very nearly the most deficient of all, and that those who were thought inferior came nearer to being men of understanding. I must show you, you see, that my wanderings were a kind of labor of Hercules, to prove to myself that the oracle was right. After I had tried the statesmen, I went to the poets, tragedians, writers of lyrics and all, thinking that there I should take myself in the act and find I really was more ignorant than they. So I took up the poems of theirs in which they seemed to have spent most pains, and I asked them what they meant, hoping to learn something from them too. Now I am really ashamed to tell you the truth, but tell it I must. On the whole, almost all the bystanders could have spoken better about the poems than the men who made them, so here again I soon perceived that what the poets make is not made by wisdom, but by a kind of gift and inspiration, as with the prophets and the seers. They too utter many glorious sayings, but they understood nothing of what they say. The poets seemed to me in much the same state, and besides, I noticed that on account of their poetry they thought themselves the wisest of men in other matters too, which they were not. So I left them also, thinking that I had just the same advantage over them as over the politicians. Finally, I turned to the men who work with their hands. I was conscious I knew nothing that could be called anything, and I was quite sure I should find that they knew a great many wonderful things. And in this I was not disappointed. They did know things that I did not, and in this they were wiser than me. But then, gentlemen, the skilled artisans in their turn seemed to me to have just the same failings as the poets. Because of his skill in his own craft, every one of them thought he was the wisest of men in the highest matters too, and this error of theirs obscured the wisdom they possessed, so that I asked myself on behalf of the oracle whether I would rather be as I am, without their wisdom and without their ignorance, or like them in both. And I answered for myself and for the oracle that it was better for me to be as I am. It was this inquiry, men of Athens, that gave rise to so much enmity against me, and that of the worst and bitterest kind. A succession of calumnies followed, and I received the surname of the Wise, for those who meet me think me wise whenever I refute others. But, sirs, the truth may be that God alone has wisdom, and by that oracle he may have meant just this, that human wisdom is of little or no account. It seems as though he had not been speaking of Socrates the individual, but had merely used my name for an illustration, as if to say, "He, O men, is the wisest of you all, who has learnt, like Socrates, that his wisdom is worth nothing." Such has been my search and my inquiry, ever since up to this day, in obedience to the god, whenever I found anyone, fellow citizen or foreigner, who might be considered wise. And if he did not seem so to me, I have borne God witness, and pointed out to him that he was not wise at all. And through this incessant work I have had no leisure for any public actions worth mentioning, nor yet for private affairs, but I live in extreme poverty. And through this incessant work I have had no leisure for any public actions worth mentioning, nor yet for my private affairs, but I live in extreme poverty because of this service of mine to God. And besides this, the young men who follow me, those who have most leisure, sons of our wealthiest citizens, They take a keen delight among themselves in hearing people questioned, and they often copy me and try their hand at examining others on their own account, and I imagine they find no lack of men who think they know something, but know little or nothing at all. Now those whom they examine get angry, not with themselves, but with me, and say there is a man called Socrates, an utter scoundrel, who is ruining the young. And when anyone asks me what he does or what he teaches, they have really nothing whatever to say. But so as not to seem at a loss, they take up the accusations that lie ready to hand against all philosophers, and say that he speaks of the things in the heavens and beneath the earth, and teaches men not to believe in the gods, and to make the worse appear the better reason. The truth, I imagine, they would not care to say, namely, that they have been convicted of claiming knowledge where they have none to claim. And being, as I think they are, ambitious, energetic, and numerous, well organized, and using great powers of persuasion, they have gone on calumniating me with singular persistence and vigor till your ears are full of it all. After them, Meletus attacked me, and Antaeus and Lycon. Meletus on behalf of the poets, Antaeus for the artisans and the statesmen, Lycon for the orators, so that, as I said at first, I should be greatly surprised if in the short time before me I could remove the prejudice that has grown to be so great. There, men of Athens, that is the truth. I have not hidden one thing from you, great or small. I have not kept back one word. Yet I am fairly sure that I have roused hostility by so doing, which is in itself proof that what I say is true, and that the calumnies against me are of this nature, and the reasons those I have given. And if you look into the matter now or afterwards, you will find it to be so.